So I know I'm a little late to the party, but here's my honest review of Old Forester 1924. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So man, oh man, this is a fascinating bottle. Old Forester 1924 has been causing a lot of people to have a lot of opinions in the whiskey world, in the whiskey tube community in particular. There's just a lot flying around about this bottle. It just recently hit my area and I was able to see it and grab it. So I'm a little late to the party and there's already a lot of people talking about this bottle. What are they saying? All manner of things. They're saying that maybe this is whiskey of the year, a contender for one of the best bottles, new releases, especially a lot of big Old Forester fans loving it. Then there's a lot of people saying it's a shameless cash grab, that Old Forester has basically just doubled the price on their other products from the Whiskey Row series and pawned it off on us, and it's not up to anywhere near that standard. Then of course there's a lot of people in the middle saying, hey, it's pretty good. I'm not sure I like that all whiskey prices are going up, but that's kind of what you get these days. So that makes me think, I gotta grab one myself. As soon as I saw it, I did, and I wanted to review it for you all. So in terms of the stats on this particular bottle, let's dive in there. This is a 100 proof, 10-year-old bourbon. So it's important to note that most other Old Forester products fall in the 4 to 6-year-old range. They do have heat cycled warehouses, so often they claim at least that their whiskeys present as more mature more quickly. Whether or not that's the case, I'll leave to you to determine for yourself, but I do think 10 years old from them is much more significantly aged than everything else that I've seen or that I've been able to taste, so it's going to be interesting to dive in. In terms of mash bill here, interesting story. This is actually not the typical Old Forester mash bill. It is the early times mash bill, which we know was sold off from Brown-Forman to Sazerac. So they maybe had stocks of it left, and that is 79% corn, 11% rye, and 10% malted barley. This particular mash bill, from what I've seen again from reviews, gets funneled up, and the best of best stuff that's older gets to be put into King of Kentucky. So a lot of people are kind of calling this Prince of Kentucky or King of Kentucky Jr., saying that maybe, the theory goes, that the stocks for this didn't quite live up to the King of Kentucky profile, but ended up being put into this blend. Who knows if that's true? That's just kind of the rumor mill, but sounds plausible, right? In any case, the real point of controversy here is that this is $115. It is a limited release, so it's coming out annually once a year. Toward the beginning of the year is what I assume. And $115 is double what most of the other Whiskey Row products are worth. So like, you know, you've got Old Forester 1920, 1910, 1897. Those are pretty well regarded, especially the 1920 and 1910. People love them as affordable, available, really good options. So there's a little bit of ruffling the feathers with this being more limited, but being called part of the Whiskey Row series and then also being nearly double the price. With all of that floating around, the question really remains, what do I think of this whiskey? And I think it's important to note that for all of us, like when a whiskey has so many different opinions flying around, you just gotta see for yourself. Maybe that's trying it at a bar, maybe that's being, you know, a little bit bold and picking up a bottle even if it's expensive, but we can't really judge it till we try it. So let's dive in and do that. Okay, on the nose, Old Forester 1924. So since I've opened this, I did let it have a little time to breathe because I think that's especially important with older whiskeys. The nose is really, really nice. It's rich and dense, like strong red berries like raspberry and cherry, ton of oak, and a good amount of spice. There is a really interesting note, which is a little bit like acetone, but I think you could also interpret it more as like vinegar or apple cider vinegar in particular, because it's got kind of a crisp quality. Though I will say, like, if you get a little too close, it will kind of singe your nostrils with that note. But it's really, really nice, really intriguing, and that acetone or apple cider vinegar note is not off-putting, surprisingly. It actually makes me want to taste it, and I think it gives it layers of depth. So you can tell this has age, and it's very inviting. Very solid nose. All right, let's go in on the palate. Cheers. It's good. Texture is nice. Mouth feels really, really solid. It is not as powerful maybe as the nose gave off, but it kind of unveils itself slowly, which is nice. The prominent notes here though are like a lot of oak, and then a lot of like baking spice and kind of barrel spice. A little bit of a tobacco and leather thing going on the back end especially. So it's kind of got a drying effect. I will say, especially on that first sip there, I didn't feel like the nose transferred over to the palate all that much. The palate goes more in this dry, tannic direction, maybe some like dark chocolate, but not any of those like big red fruits for me, which I'm intrigued by. Maybe they'll come forward more on second sips and as this thing continues to open up, but it tends more in that dry direction on the palate for me. All right, let's go in for that second sip. Cheers. Okay, so a slight layering in there on that second sip of like a graham cracker note and maybe a little bit of just like kind of pure maple syrup. Not like Aunt Jemima's like lather your pancakes, but like actual maple syrup right out of a tree, like very sweet and kind of raw. Very interesting, but again, I didn't get basically any of the fruit notes that I'm getting on the nose. And now I do detect more of that like maple on the nose, which is nice, but I feel like the palate again is tending more in that dry direction. The oak and the spice are dominant here. All right, let me go in for a third sip and we'll really focus on the finish, and then I'll recap my whole experience. Cheers. Yeah. So first of all, the finish is nice. It's got length to it, lingers for a while. Again, this one kind of unfolds, and it's got a surprising amount of spice, and that really gives it kind of a clinging effect to the palate. Part of that is also the drying effect. So I've got this leather, tobacco, oak, and spice thing going on in my palate for a while. That makes it kind of cling to your palate, but it is drying. I would say overall, I'm a little torn on this one because the nose is spectacular, really inviting, and then the palate is very good, but it just almost tends a little bit too much in one direction. I'm not sure if it's as balanced as I'd like. I'm really searching for like a strong vanilla or caramel or brown sugar, and I feel like it's lacking that one extra sweet burst. And then I would really love to see more of that cherry or raspberry come through. I do think a touch of that raspberry is on the palate, but it's not as strong as I'd like. So maybe it'll open up more with time. I've only had it for a couple of days, so we will probably revisit this one. I'm just a little torn because I feel like the nose is really special, and then the palate, it just lacks one or two notes that I think would take it to the next level. Maybe this was supposed to be King of Kentucky, and then it was a little bit lackluster in terms of profile, or just lacked those big brown sugar caramel notes, so it didn't go into that kind of profile, and it became Old Forester 1924. In terms of this $115 price point, I feel like I'm about breaking even here. I feel like for something limited and special, not everybody's gonna get their hands on it, and I was happy to pick it up. 115 to me feels like I'm, again, breaking even. I didn't feel like it went over that value, but I'm not like totally upset. Part of that is I also own a YouTube channel and get to review it, and that's part of the fun. For you, for my recommendation, I think this is one you gotta decide for yourself. Are you okay paying $115 on something that like could really be awesome for you and really hit your profile, or maybe it's not? Maybe this is a good candidate for try it at a bar before you buy it. I think that that's probably good advice here, though obviously it's limited, so if you see it, you might only get 1 or 2 chances to grab it. But there's a lot of opinions flying around. Do I think it's a shameless cash grab from Old Forester? Absolutely not. I think it's a 10-year-old whiskey that's pretty dang good. Do I think it is a contender for Whiskey of the Year? Unless it really opens up and adds a couple layers, I don't necessarily think so. I think there's probably going to be plenty others that I think are better this year. That's my honest thoughts on it. Hope that's helpful for you. I hope that you get to make a more informed decision. But honestly, this one is just kind of, if you're a big fan of Old Forester and you have the money and you're looking to add this to your collection, go for it. Otherwise, maybe try it at a bar and see if it really hits your profile. That's going to do it, everybody. That's going to wrap it up. Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on Old Forester 1924? Have you had a chance to taste it or buy a bottle? Were you disappointed or do you love it? While you're at it, hit the like button on this video, helps get it out to more people. And then, of course, if you're enjoying the content coming out of the channel, hit that subscribe button and join us for the rest of 2024 and beyond. Till I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.